Good evening. My name is Mary Helen Sheriff, and today is October 6, 2020. It is also the day that my novel, Boop and Eve's Road Trip, launches out into the world. So I'm pretty excited, and I wanted to celebrate with my Bookish Road Trip friends by reading a short scene from the novel, starting on page 11. Eve served her prison sentence in Biology 102, grateful that at least Tim had agreed to be her lab partner again. The reek of formaldehyde was so foul Eve had worn a mask to the previous dissections. This morning, though, she'd put on makeup for once, which would have been made pointless if a mask covered half of her face, especially given these super attractive science goggles already covering the other half. Safety goggles were a ridiculous lab requirement. Were they afraid the pigs would come to life and gouge her eyes out? Yet another example of adults and their misguided overprotection. Everyone said she'd get used to the smell after a few minutes, but Eve had yet to move past the nauseous stage. Tim rolled his eyes toward the corner where several girls in form-fitting shirts with plunging necklines were squealing and prancing around like piglets themselves. But when Eve examined the real pigs strapped to the tray in front of her, thoughts of silly girls and dancing piglets vanished completely. The pig was small, fetal, its skin a paler and tanner version of pink than the one she'd used in her childhood coloring books. Funny how we simplify everything as children, even colors. Eve would have given a great deal to be able to color her world with a box of 16 crayons again, though perhaps not her fashion designs. Tim's gloved hand sliced from the throat to the umbilicus. Eve locked her gaze safely on the lab book. Her hand shook, partly because, well, blood and guts, and partly because today was the day everything would change, the day Eve would take control of her life and ask a boy out. Asked Tim out. In spite of her mom, in spite of her own terror. She couldn't wait to report back to Allie. They hadn't talked in 2 weeks, practically forever. Wouldn't she be shocked and proud? Tim exclaimed over the pig's scrotum. Eve followed his pointing finger and instantly regretted the tater tots, Lucky Charms, and devil's mess she'd had for breakfast. Tim folded back the skin and muscle to reveal its gummy internal organs, the stomach, the intestines, the liver. Eve swallowed down the stomach acid leaking into her mouth. She needed to stop watching, but couldn't seem to help herself. The combination of peer through fingers while watching horror movie syndrome and Tim, with his cute chin dimple and streak of bleached hair on his otherwise dark head, was irresistible. Did Tim find her irresistible? When she asked if he wanted to grab a coffee with her after class, would he jump on the chance? Maybe he'd been trying to find the nerve to ask her out. Just last week he'd mentioned being interested in someone, and he said it with heavy significance as if the someone was actually her. Then yesterday he'd referred to her as a babe. Not Eve's favorite word, but coming from Tim, she'd take it. So today was the day. Tim held up the pig to drain its bodily fluids. Eve's stomach rumbled. Now. She'd do it now. She crossed her gloved fingers and opened her mouth. He turned on the faucet to rinse out the body cavity, and that's when it happened. That's when he sprang it on her. So, I've got something I want to tell you about. Eve blushed. Was he going to do it? Then she'd be off the hook. A wave of relief washed over her, but Eve was surprised to note a twinge of disappointment, too. Now she'd never know if she could have screwed up the courage. Whatever, was she crazy? Tim was about to ask her out, and she was worried about tests of courage? I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time, but I couldn't find the guts. He held up the dead pig when he said guts and wiggled his eyebrows at his cleverness. Eve gave him an encouraging smile. Her heart raced, preparing for one of those moments. I'm pleased to announce, he drummed his stained gloved fingers on the lab table's edge, that Carrie and I are a couple. Wait, what? I know, right? Crazy. She wanted to be the one to tell you, but we flipped for it and I won. Isn't it awesome? How could Carrie do this to her? They were friends, roommates. But then Carrie didn't know about Eve's crush, did she? Damn. Why hadn't Eve confided in her? The smile on Eve's face froze in place like a clown's. Awesome. Right. She blinked, glad now for the goggles. Spread broke out on her forehead. They were wrong. She wasn't getting used to the smell. Tim offered Eve the scissors. Without giving it any thought, she took them and snipped. The bone crunched. Eve ran to the trash can and said hello to her breakfast for the second time that day. Oh, gross, the girl nearest Eve said. Eve could feel the eyes of the whole lab drilling into her hunchback. Tim's voice came from behind. You okay? Why didn't you say something? And I'll end there. Good night!